What's up, people? How y'all doing? What's happening? What's happening? What's good? What's gravy? It's Joseph R. Wheeler III, artist, founder, the president of the ONYXCON Foundation. Welcome to another live here on the ONYXCON Network. If you don't know, you better ask somebody. Yeah, we up in here. So, fresh shaved too. Fresh shaved. I always like to, I do this for myself and for the ladies. You know, I like to highlight when I shaved it because the stubble will be back in a matter of days. And all my folks who got to maintain a baldy or try to keep their facial hair a certain way, you know the pain. You know how annoying it is to it's a blessing and a curse at the same time to get older and be able to grow this stuff. You know, there's some kids out there somewhere in high school wishing they had some cool hair like this. Don't worry, it's coming. And when it does, you're going to be like, dang. You mean I had to cut it all the time? Yeah, pretty much. Depending on your genes, depending on how your stuff grows. But most people, most guys, yeah, you're going to have to, if you really on it, probably every other day. But I don't be on it like that because I don't have time. So I get around to it, and usually it'll be about a week and a half to 2 weeks before I get back around to it. But I get it done. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, depending on what's going on, if I got anything where I want to make sure I got a certain clean look at all times and the cheeks is nice and, you know, whatever. I can still, y'all hear that? It's coming back already. And I shaved this last night. Last night. That's just what it do. Like I say, it's the blessing and the curse. I ain't mad at it. It is what it is. Yo, have y'all seen that video? I see 805 of y'all saw it by the time I was making this video. I looked and saw 805. It checked out this video I did where I was showcasing my film experience. You know, I'm an actor, writer, producer, many other things that I do, and I have a segment, one of the elements, if you will. It's a playlist. You can check it out here, called The Business, BIZNESS. All right, it's play on, of course, business. The Business is where I talk about any and everything related to the arts entertainment industry, whether that be film, music, video games, anything arts entertainment industry. I talk about it. I break it down. My personal experiences. I've had interviews with legends, and we just talk about the ins and outs of what it is to be in the business. You know what I'm saying? The BIZNESS, the business. So in this one, it's just a quick short. Like I said, it had 800 views since this morning when I posted. I was really happy about that because I've been holding that for a while. I posted briefly about it on my Instagram, but I hadn't put it up on YouTube. And I said, well, let me get this. Let me go back in. You know, you go back in the vault, and as people say, you get a dump of photos and videos and stuff. I said, man, I need to dump this. I need to get this out because this is important history. This is amazing stuff that I know somebody could appreciate. It's receipts, as they say, of when I say I lived a life for real. And so I had an opportunity to do, to be cast on. It's a show called Celebrity Crime Files, if you ever heard of it, and it deals with just what it sounds like. It's on TV One, and they do reenactments of different things from various celebrities' lives when they had crazy stuff going on or something happened that had an investigation or whatever. So they had a whole episode dedicated to Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace. And so this episode, they basically, I never technically saw the entire episode. I saw clips of it, right? Because I don't have that channel, but people I know who do have a channel, they told me, unfortunately, after we did all the work, and this is typical of the business, what happens in film, and it just happens that way. A lot of times your scenes will get cut. You know, people outside the business have no idea how much cool stuff that would have made it more entertaining for their favorite movies and TV shows and everything never sees the light of day. They just don't even make it it don't get past as they say, the cutting room floor. It ain't on the cutting room floor. And where that phrase comes from is back in the day with film, they used to actually have reel and they would cut it and splice it to make the film that you end up seeing. So some stuff would fall to the floor. You know, the stuff that was cut away that wasn't going to be used. So that's why they say it ended up on the cutting room floor. So anyway, there was a whole, I was hired to do Nipsey's father. And even though it was an honor to do it, I admit when I got it, I was kind of shocked. I was like, well, damn, I'm not his age, but, and then he's a guy, if you ever seen his pops, he'll like dye his beard and stuff. So once they dyed my beard, and they just used some like temporary stuff they could wash out, it wasn't nothing permanent. It was enough of the look. And then with my features, and I know I look like a lot of people from the Eastern Horn of Africa, and that's Nipsey's roots. If you don't know, he's Eritrean. So shout out to Eritrea. You got Eritrea, Somalia, and Ethiopia. Okay, and so all those people together, more or less, have a lot in common with certain groups, not all. Because they see, like that's the other thing, a big misconception about Ethiopians and Somalians and Eritreans. The ones that most people associate with the country, they're the people who mostly get out and go abroad and travel and have, you know, set up diaspora. But there's all kind of other tribes that don't look like, you know, don't have the same phenotype. You know, there's people in Ethiopia, in Somalia, in Eritrea that have features that look like what most people associate more with the rounded, broader featured peoples of, say, you know, a lot of West Africa and Central Africa and even South Africa. But it's like, the truth be told, there's people, the variety of quote unquote blackness is universal throughout the continent. You know, there are majority looks in certain areas. That's a fact. Yes, there are. You're gonna see more people look this way, look that way, have this complexion or this range of complexions, etc. Blah blah blah. So anyway, it was a fun set to be on because everybody who was cast, we all really, you know, they were trying to get people who looked like they could really be his pass for his family. So like I said, I was cast to be the dad. There were two young men who were cast to be younger versions of Nip. One was like the youngest, like when he was a teenager version, and he really did look like him, like with no, you know, facial hair yet, like we've seen him, like earlier pictures of him, videos of him. And then there was this older brother, shout out to Country Slim. He's a local actor here in Atlanta. And when I saw this brother on set the first day, because the first day I was there, he wasn't needed for those scenes. But then the next day I was there, I did a separate scene. And he was like, I was just like, first of all, I was just like, damn. Because he didn't look exactly like him, but he looked so close to the general features that it was like, I see why they picked you, bro. You know what I mean? And his beard was much bigger than Nipsey's ever was. You know, Nip had a pretty big beard when he grew it out, but his would be, it would do that thing like, it would puff out on the sides, right? This guy, his beard, one of them that, you know, he comb it all the time, brush it all the time, and it just goes down, and it's just like, boom. I'm talking about that thing. His beard was like right here. You can look at the video. It's short. You'll see what I'm saying. But yeah, Country Slim is what he go by. And he's an actor, and I think he raps too. But by the time they put the tats on him and they had a little wig, they put a fake thing of cornrows on him because he didn't have that much hair or anything. It was like, damn, there he is. You know, or enough enough to pass, you know, for a show like this. So anyway, they had that, and then they also had a young lady on the first day. It's funny about that too. I'll tell you a little inside stuff for anybody who's ambitious about being in the film business and wonders how the process can go. When you do these reenactment shows, or any show, or any movie for that matter, but especially shows like that, the folks who do the casting and the higher ups who make the final decision on what's going to end up in the show and whatnot, they can be extremely picky. And so there was a gorgeous girl, I forget her name. We followed each other on Instagram, but she was gonna play Lauren London. All right, y'all, we back. We're back in, as we say on set in the movie biz. We back in. You will hear me say that a lot if you're new to the channel when I do this format where I'm live and got to take my breaks and come back because I got other stuff going on. And if you're completely new to the channel, yo, we do this thing while I'm working. So I'm out here dropping and delivering. But as I was saying, I was talking about my experience on this show, Celebrity Crime Files, when they did an expose on Nipsey Hussle. So there was a young lady who was there the first day. Gorgeous girl. She's so damn fine. Oh my gosh. And you know, you had to be that to represent Lauren London because Lauren is fine, right? And very pretty and all that, got the certain look. And the minute I saw her, I said, they got you playing Lauren, right? She was like, yup. I said, okay, congratulations, because you know it's a big opportunity. You know, if the scene gets kept, somebody might if and when, because one thing about this situation, anybody who's a luminary on that level that has made that much of an impact, you know, and especially as sad as the situation is to be a martyr, you know, he'll never be forgotten, and everybody's waiting on the movie. Like, that's just a given. There will be a movie. There's been a million shows, documentaries. There's still clips coming out. Every rapper that ever made a track with him that ain't never been released is trying to get the rights to that so they can get that out and make that and do that. And, you know, so, oh, don't do it, don't do it. These folks about to mess up. Someone backing up into the traffic. Don't do it. We don't need to see all that today. Please stay in your lane. What y'all doing out? Chill. Oh, goodness. Folk too impatient, man. It's going to be all right. Just, all right. Is that for real? All right. Thank you. Don't you hate when people letting you over, but they wheels still moving? They slowing down, but they're like, the hell are you doing? Shit. I'm not trying to jump in front of a moving car. Anyway, yeah. Uh-oh. Somebody checking the back of their stuff like they thought they were hit. There's too much going on, man. You gotta get the energy right today. Y'all wilding out here. This person here is right up on me behind, though. It's like, damn, why you so freaking close? Like, you ain't gonna get there no faster. I promise you not. Especially if you mess around and get in a wreck. Anyway, let's stay focused. We're gonna talk about what we're talking about. We're gonna try and stay focused here without tangents. So as I was saying, you know, everybody would, you know, like to see a movie. I would. I'd like to see it done right, well done, and really cover all aspects, especially toward the end of his life. Because when a lot of folks talk about Nipsey, you know, it's easy to go into the whole gangster element and get lost in that sauce instead of focusing on how much he started to evolve and was changing toward the end of his life to the point where he stopped drinking as hard as he was. He said it in interviews. None of this stuff is, you know, made up. I'll never forget interviews I've seen with him where he said, you know, he pulled back to the point, I think he had literally stopped smoking weed, or at least not as much as he was. And then he wasn't drinking hard. And I noticed the changes. I mean, even in his public image, you know, I'll never forget the famous photo shoot he did with Lauren, where I think they were on Hollywood Boulevard, because that's the one street I know got the most of them palm trees in a row straight down the whole street in LA. If you ever been to LA, you know what I'm talking about. But he did this famous photo shoot where he's standing in front of this bad car with her, and he had on a whole like top bottom matching kind of satin looking fit. I can't even describe what it was made out of or whatever, but it was sharp. You know, it was a refined look. It wasn't just no, you know, everyday urban type thing. It was like, you know, some real smooth player type shit. And he had his pants up, and I said, represent, brother. That's what the hell I'm talking about. It's long overdue, but I see you doing your man up, and I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's only for those who do understand what I'm saying, because there's some of y'all out there gonna hear that and get offended because y'all on some dumb shit for life and wonder why you don't get what you need out of life because you don't mind looking ridiculous your whole life. And I understand the traditions that came out of, even as it applies to gang culture, it's just totally not healthy, and it's all for the downfall. And if you keep pushing that as your identity, that's all you're gonna get. That's all people gonna see you as, and you will never get past a certain level. There will always be a glass ceiling, guaranteed. I don't care how many fools happen. Seem like, what you talking about? So and so do it, and he still, yeah, I hear you. You know, it disappoints me every time I see that Kendrick still do it. I see him in concert and he's still sagging and stuff. I'm like, come on, Kendrick. Bro, you way too damn established and rich to be doing that dumb shit. But maybe that's his way of trying to say that he still can appeal to the kids and keep his young audience. And all. But why is it being young is automatically dumb? You can set the bar. You can raise the standard on what young is. If you change, they change. If your pants come up, theirs will be at their neck. The next day, I mean, you ain't got to do that, but you get what I'm saying. I'm like, you don't have to look like that. And what's sad is that so many people, it's been happening for so long now, a lot of young folk, they really think it's always been like this. No. I'm about to turn 50 and I can remember when all that started, like literally, especially in Atlanta. And it was the lamest, weirdest shit ever when it first started. all the goons and want to be so cool and thuggish types or whatever. When I was in high school, when that first started, they would be looking at dudes, the few dudes, the like 1 or 2 dudes in the whole school that would do that. They'd be looking at them like, what's wrong with them? Like, what's that about, right? But slowly it started changing. And then I realized the reason why is, okay, older brothers, cousins, whoever coming home from jail, and they trying to make that shit cool. And that's how it started to change. And suddenly the ones that wasn't doing it too. Followers, man. You want to be a follower, you want to be a leader. And when you're a leader, be a real leader. Set the tone. And no matter how many folk tell you, you square and you ain't cool with it, whatever, I'm doing me. And just like the few who were doing that managed to change all the others from, they in their mind, they thought I'm doing the coolest thing you could be doing right now, which was stupid, but it worked. Because by the time rappers and stuff started doing it, because let me tell you something about that. Not every rapper you ever saw with them certain looks, that's who they really are every day, even if they were into the life, so to speak, in the streets. They didn't necessarily always dress the way you see them in PR, okay? When they doing public relations, when they doing photo shoots, when they doing videos, when they doing interviews, all of that fabricated. I'm in the biz. I'm telling you, I've seen people show up to something looking one way, and then they're like, all right, we ready to roll? And now they looking like, damn, where all that come from? They have been through hair, makeup, and wardrobe. That's what. It's a whole nother person. It's ridiculous, man. And it's disgusting because generationally, so many kids get caught up in it. And they trying to live what they think goes along with it and end up dying while the damn rapper's still alive. And then later on, when they get fed up with their own drama in their life because of what that look and energy attracts, then they'll get to a point where they'll do like, I always loved that track though, when Dr. Dre came out with that joint, I've been there, I done that. When he's sitting in the car waving off, he in the limo, and his driver, he pull up in the hood and everybody all at the window yelling at him and cussing him out and telling him he'll sell out and stuff. And he just like, whatever, keep moving. Love that video. Love that video. Been there, I done that. Next. But anyway, back to the main point about this show and what I was on, right? So they managed to cast enough people to have the different looks of everybody that they wanted. They had somebody for a younger version of Nipsey. They had somebody for an older version. They had it ended up being 2 young ladies for Lauren. I'm gonna tell that real quick. But then there was a lady who played the mom, and I worked opposite of her in a scene because it was supposed to be where, you know, the mom had found out and then the dad finds out. And even though they were divorced at the time of, you know, his passing, whatever, you know, they still, you know, it was like a scene where basically I'm comforting her and everything as the dad. So, you know, that was how they had it scripted or whatever for the cutaway scenes. Because the way those shows were, you know, they have the dialogue. And that one was narrated by Blair Underwood, by the way. Legend, absolute legend. If you know Blair's work. Shout out to Blair Underwood, one of the greatest. And you know, I didn't even know at the time that that's who was gonna narrate it. I just knew, you know, because you don't get all of that. All you get is, we hired you, we're gonna get, the director's gonna give you some points. You don't have lines for a show like that. You might say some things in the moment, but none of them are gonna be heard because nothing's mic'd up. It's one of those shows where everything's being narrated over and you're just going through the emotions. But I always hated that they cut the scene because we had a really emotional moment of showing, you know, compassion for that. And it was just like they took the whole scene away. I was like, damn. But that's the biz. That's what you gotta be real about when you're in this thing. You gotta understand, whatever you think ought to stay in it ain't got nothing to do with what the editors and the higher ups gonna do. Just like I was gonna say with the 2 young ladies that ended up being one was gonna play Lauren London. And the first day I was there 2 days. The first day I was there, you know, I was talking to her and I'm thinking, okay, but we're all waiting on our scene. They didn't even use us that first day. It was like they picked, let's say there was a room full of 10 folks. It was more like they just did a dress rehearsal. They didn't call it that, but that's basically what it was. They got us all in the looks so that everybody could be reviewed, took pictures of us, sent that to the higher ups, and then decisions were made somewhere in the process about who was in and who wasn't. So I got called back for the second day, so I must have been in. You know, they was like, yeah, call him back, he's good. But then, unfortunately, the young lady, I didn't see her, and I was looking around and said, yo, anybody see such and such who was here the other day? It was like, no, the other cutie, right, that looked familiar, but I couldn't tell why, because she had her hair, she had a different on than when I first met this lady. And if she ever sees this, we can laugh about it together. But anyway, met her on something else, but I didn't notice it was the same person. So I came past her in the hall at one point. And I said, "Are you playing? You know, are you gonna be in London?" Because I know there was another young lady. She was like, "Yeah, that's what they. Yeah, I got that." I was like, "Oh damn, why they send the other girl home?" You never know. But come to find out that just somebody on the higher up felt like she looked a little bit more like what they wanted. Period. Now you still get paid for your day of work. You ain't gonna not get paid, but it's just like, damn, that's the worst, man. When you thought you had it, and then it's just never mind, right? So anyway, we talking for a minute, and she's looking at me the whole time like, you know, and she's looking at me like, you don't know who I am. And the funny thing about actors is, you know, a lot of people when you do stuff like this, they be kind of wondering like, are you trying to play like you? In a minute, you're gonna be like, what's up, girl? Like I know who you are. But I really did not recognize her because they had her hair so different, right? And she's like, you don't remember me? I know you. I said, you know.